Chapter 5, Mothers and Daughters. Victoria dominated her wish to cry and calmed down immediately, hiding her pain very well, something in which she already had a great experience acquired throughout her life and especially in recent years. Then she saw a piano that was in a corner of that room where Lord Melbourne rested, and her face lit up with a joyful gesture and a smile almost childlike. She turned to see her daughter and Lord Melbourne. "Vicky, would you like to sing for Lord Melbourne?" Victoria asked excitedly. "Mama, I'm ashamed a little," Vicky replied blushing. "Honey, you sing very beautiful, and you've already sung a couple of times in front of the family and some of my ladies, and they all think you does it very well," Victoria replied with a gesture of affection and motherly pride. "Your Highness, do not feel obliged to do something you do not want. But I would love to hear you sing, because such a beautiful young lady must surely have an angelic voice, and it must be a privilege to enjoy it," said Lord Melbourne with deep affection reflected in his voice and in his face. Vicky saw him, she still blushing, but immediately the love reflected in the gaze of that man encouraged her, and the girl smiled happily. "Well, I think I can sing a song for Lord Melbourne," said Vicky lovely way. "Wonderful. I will accompany you on the piano," said Victoria excited and happy. Victoria and Vicky talked and agreed that Vicky would sing the carol "Hark, the Herald Angels Sing." Victoria sat in front of the piano and began to play the melody of the song, and Vicky, standing in front of Lord Melbourne, sang the lyrics with a very beautiful voice for her age, a sweet and melodious voice of a little girl. In her mouth the letter of the carol came to life in a lovely way. "Hark, the herald angels sing. Glory to the newborn King. Peace on earth, and mercy mild. God and sinners reconciled." In the description of this video is a link to a full version of the carol. Lord Melbourne listened increasingly touched, with a cumulus of emotions about to explode in his chest. His hands trembled and his eyes were full of tears, and some of them ran down his cheeks. When the girl finished singing and smiled a sweet smile, Lord Melbourne had to make a great effort to speak, his voice broken by emotion. "Thank you very much, Your Highness. It's the most beautiful the most beautiful thing," Lord Melbourne said as his lips trembled and his voice broke until he could not anymore, and he broke himself, crying desperately like a child, and almost pouting. "Lord Melbourne!" Vicky said, surprised and alarmed. Victoria stood up and, walking away from the piano, she hurried to Lord Melbourne, and with one hand grabbed one arm of Lord Melbourne and with another hand stroked his head, on his partially grey hair. "Lord M. Please, Lord M, do not get like that. Do not cry, please," exclaimed Victoria, trying to stop her own wish to cry. "Mama, what's the matter with Lord Melbourne?" Vicky asked, worried and moved. "Honey, Lord Melbourne is sick and your song moved him a lot because it reminded him of his children," Victoria replied, trying to reassure her daughter, but in a voice broken by emotion, and saying the last words could not help but break herself, and with a pout, she broke in tears. "Mama, Lord Melbourne, do not cry," exclaimed Vicky, beginning to cry, and approached timidly to Lord Melbourne and putting her little hand on his knee. Lord Melbourne extended a hand to touch Vicky, but did not dare, and cried more strongly. Victoria went to the door and, opening it, she peeked out to call Miss Scarratt, who hurried to her mistress's call. "Please, Scarratt, take the princess with you a few minutes while I talk to Lord Melbourne," Victoria said, trying to calm herself and wiping her tears with the back of one hand, while she saw Scarratt with a meaningful gaze. "Vicky, go with Miss Scarratt while I comfort Lord Melbourne, then you'll come back to say goodbye to him, and take your gift so you can show it to Scarratt," Victoria said to her daughter. Vicky saw, with some confusion, her mother, but obeyed and went to the door with her musical box, while turning to see with curiosity her mother and Lord Melbourne, who was still crying. Scarratt took her hand and went out with her. "Come on, Your Highness, the cook at Brocket Hall has some delicious cookies and some cake for you, the butler told me," Scarratt said softly to distract Vicky. Vicky seemed happy and both went out the door, while Scarratt closed it to give privacy to Victoria and Lord Melbourne. Victoria turned to see Lord Melbourne with an intense gaze of love and compassion, and approaching him placed a kiss on the hair that covered his head. Then, she did something that would have scandalized most of her subjects if they could see her at that moment, and slowly sat on Lord Melbourne's lap. Instead of rejecting her courteously, Lord Melbourne hugged her and narrowed her against him, and she reciprocated by embracing him and sinking her face into his neck. "I'm sorry, my love. I just wanted you to see her. I wanted to comfort you, I wanted to comfort you with a piece of her. I wanted you to see with your own eyes the beautiful and wonderful creature she has become," said Victoria, crying again. "I thank you, Victoria, it has been one of the most beautiful moments of my life. It is the best Christmas gift you could give to this sick old man," said Lord Melbourne with his voice broken and still crying. "Every day, when I see her I see you. When I see your eyes in her eyes, your lips on her lips, when I see her confident, intelligent, funny, ironic personality. You live in her, and she is part of you, although she barely knows you. William, she is the best we have done together, and while she is by my side, a part of you will be by my side, reminding me how much we have loved each other," Victoria said while pouting, and tears ran down her cheeks. "She has been the best gift you have given me, ma'am. She is a gift that I do not deserve. This innocent and beautiful girl is the best thing I have done in my life, and seeing her has made me feel that my life has been worth it, despite so much pain and so much shame, so much loneliness. Her existence almost compensates me for the fact of having lost her mother, although really nothing in this life or any other life can compensate for your absence, and the made to lose you. I'm just glad to know that our love will continue to live, through her when I'm gone," replied Lord Melbourne, trying to stop his crying. Victoria moved a little on his lap to see Lord Melbourne in the eye. "I love you, William," Victoria said with infinite love and sadness reflected on her face and eyes. "I love you, Victoria," William said, his eyes bright with tears and trying sadly to sketch one of his old funny and charming smiles. Both kissed on the lips, tenderly, with a mixture of passion, nostalgia, and sadness. They kissed for several minutes, and then Victoria laid her head on his chest. "Victoria, I think I do not have much time left in this world," said William, calmly and with a firmer voice. "Don't say that, please," Victoria prayed with pain. "It's the truth. When the inevitable will happen, you must go on, you must be strong, for me and for Vicky, and also for your other children," replied William, affectionate and worried. "It's okay, my love. Before I forget, I brought you another gift," said Victoria, making an effort to calm down, and got up to go get something, and returned with something wrapped in wrapping paper. When Lord Melbourne ripped the paper and opened it, he was very surprised. "This is?" Lord Melbourne asked, bewildered, but did not finish the sentence. "Yes, it is one of those modern daguerreotypes. Vicky and I have posed for it, some time ago, but I preferred to have the opportunity to hand it over to you in person. Of course, there are other copies. The official excuse is that the Queen wanted to have her first portrait of a daguerreotype, which she was anxious to be the first British monarch who experimented with the new technology of photography. But my main motivation was that you would have a fairly true image of Vicky and me. I guess some people have found it strange that I posed with Princess Victoria and not Bertie, who is my heir, or Albert, but well, I got what I wanted," Victoria said with a lovely smile. "Thank you so much, ma'am. I will keep it as the most precious treasure," replied Lord Melbourne with a wonderful smile like the ones he exhibited in the past. They both continued talking, but strangely she no longer listened, not even her own voice, and when her gaze was fixed on a newspaper that was on a small table next to the armchair of Lord Melbourne and saw that the date was from one of the first days of December 1847, she felt a chill. Then everything went dark, and when the light returned, she realized that she was in another very different room, and without understanding why, she remembered very well the date on which she now was. That date was January 25, 1858. In front of Victoria was her daughter Vicky, now a 17-year-old girl, dressed in a wedding dress. The ceremony was beautiful. Vicky, Your father is very proud of you, Victoria said excitedly. Which father, mother? Prince Albert or Lord Melbourne? Vicky asked, apparently serene, but with a lot of contained emotion. Vicky! Victoria exclaimed, surprised and scared, turning pale. Do you think I'm stupid, mother? I discovered it long ago. I had to understand why it was so important for me to see Lord Melbourne shortly before what was the last Christmas of his life. Do not try to deny it, mother, you'll only embarrass yourself. I'm sure I'm Lord Melbourne's daughter, Vicky replied determinedly, with an intense gaze like the ones Victoria saw in Lord Melbourne's eyes. Vicky, forgive me, Victoria said with tears in her eyes. Today I've married a man I do not love, Mama. I have no doubt that Prince Friedrich is a good man, and I do not doubt that with time I can get to feel affection for him, but I do not love him, I hardly know him, and I do not know if I will love him someday. I've married for duty, practically because they forced me, just like you did one day, Mama. Today, I see you, Mama, today I don't see my mother, I don't see the Queen, Victoria Regina, today I see a woman like me, and therefore a companion in misfortune. We are both companions of misfortune, Mama, we were both born not to be free, not to be happy, not to love who we want, in the name of duty we were born to be simple pawns of the game of others, to be slaves. That's why I do not feel resentment for you, Mama, I only feel pity, the same pity that from today I feel for myself, said Vicky with moist eyes, but containing the emotion. Vicky! Vicky! Exclaimed Victoria, crying almost desperately. But like you, I will fulfill my duty, Mother. And do not worry, I will always love you. Now excuse me, I have to change my clothes, to start my married life. With your permission, Mama, said Vicky, and left without waiting for her mother's permission. Victoria wanted to reach out her hand to reach her, but then everything darkened again, and when it cleared again Victoria was in the middle of a large room in William's mansion. Nowadays, Victoria realized that she was dressed in her pajamas and was wearing socks and slippers. She realized that she had left the bedroom in the middle of the dream, like a sleepwalker. But now she knew that they were not dreams, but real life, memories of the past. Vicky, my daughter. Vicky, forgive me. Lord M. Lord M, my love. My love, forgive me. My love, come back to me. Exclaimed Victoria, crying plaintive, like a wounded animal, like a desperate and broken girl, with a heart-rending pain. Victoria fell to her knees and put her hands to her head, as she cried almost hysterically and almost drowned in the middle of pouts. Then Victoria heard the sound of water in the scale model of a river in the nativity scene, and raising her head she saw the scene illuminated by the Christmas lights. Victoria was hypnotized watching the nativity scene, and her vision blurred, while she heard a thud, like the murmurs of many people. Then Victoria felt her body fail and fell on her left side to the floor, staring at the scene. And her mind and soul were once again plunged into time travel and the oniric worlds.